That's an opportunity for everyone here to think and break down what those problems are to solve for it. It's exciting.
Is very exciting. And if we frame education as not a what do we teach them, but why do we teach them, what are your thoughts on that, Dr. Didit?
May I dial back a little to your
Of course.
question about what makes
What does it
makes-
mean to
what
be
it
human
means-
in a tech deterministic world?
Right. This is going to be a very cheesy answer, but
Please, I love cheesy.
I think it's relationships.
Oh,
I think
wonderful.
what education does is it teaches us to relate to each other, and it's not enough. So again, it's not about what we teach.
Yes.
And it's not about maybe there's a little about how we teach. It enables certain types of interactions, but it's about teaching us to be good to one another, to serve one another, to design for one another, to solve problems together. And it's all about relationships. We have to be, if we have to teach our children anything, it's how to care about each other and about our planet, right? So I think now how does AI come into that? Hopefully it'll make us teach better. So, but the values that we teach, that we communicate, should stay the same, I think.
We were talking about the role of community in education over lunch, right? And this super resonates right now when you say, what does it mean to be human? Is this we are capable of building, maintaining relationships, and it's this human connection, I think. And I will throw, because we're in connection, I'll throw the question to you, sir. And I know as a brand, you have certain aspirations and ambitions to maintain this human connection. And through your work, how does it play out? Can you give us some insight on how you're using these technologies to strengthen and further and broaden, deepen these connections, these human connections?
I think more than the challenges, because we know that the challenges or the issues has been there for quite a long time already. I'd like to look at this more as an opportunity and accelerator for us to catch up, speed things up. I think the issues that we have right now, AI adoption, connectivity, and whatnot, it's a mix of infrastructure, policies, public trust and awareness, probably talents, as mentioned by Basti earlier. We need to reskill, upskill our talents. So when we talk about connectivity, when we talk about infrastructure, it's not limited to connectivity. We can also talk about data center, energy, devices of our customers, of our consumers. So there's a lot to talk about. But I think what's really important is how do we scale? How do we speed up? What improvements do we need to have from a policy and process standpoint for us to be able to ensure that there's full coverage, including in the rural areas, right? These are the conversations that we need to have. In the context of policies, who from the government actually covers digital literacy, for example? Whose mandate is to champion that all Filipino people knows how to use internet? Whose mandate is that? I don't even know, right? And who from the government is actually in charge of making sure that we have a safe, secure AI systems or solutions that will not only raise awareness but also build the trust of the people. I think banking on to what Basti mentioned earlier and to what Didit mentioned, it's actually more of partnership and collaboration, somehow similar to relationship. I'd like to highlight that with all these challenges, we can't do things on our own. As a private sector, we can't do things on our own. There's a lot. And I think the true strength or the true power lies in how we work together. Government agencies, academic institutions, private sectors, or even social civic organizations. It's the power of us working together. Let's say, for example, at Globe, we do have, I'd like to share 3 programs that we have right now. So we have a community of practice for both analytics and AI. The intent is for our talents to learn, to enable, to share their ideas, best practices, both internally and externally. We partner with universities also. We do speaking engagements with them to bridge the gap between academia and industries. Earlier this year, we've launched a program with McKinsey. The intent of the program is called DISHA. It stands for Data Insights for Social and Humanitarian Action, which focuses on disaster management. So the intent is, it was mentioned earlier that Philippines ranks #1 in terms of World Risk Index.
Yes.
And at the same time, every year, there are 20 storms hitting the country. So what that initiative or DISHA provides is it provides NGOs with actionable insights that will allow them to distribute or appropriate their limited resources in a more timely manner to those sectors that are vulnerable. We can go on and on, but what I'm trying to say here is there's power in collaboration and partnership across the sectors that I have mentioned because we get to pool resources, talents, expertise, skills. Hence, we can be more impactful and the solutions are more deliberate.
Thank you. Thank you. You mentioned policy, right? So I'm going to jump into that policy discussion. Oliver Patel, an AI governance lead of a pharmaceutical company, has this 5 Ps for AI governance success, and I'd like your reaction. He says AI governance should be pragmatic, it should be practical, it should also be proportionate. So it balances. I think there was a question on balance earlier. The good that it will do versus the harms that it could possibly bring forth. It should be persistent. We should continue and not just back off. Learn, experiment. We have to keep on going. It should be perceptive. We have to learn to speak the language, as you said, stretch ourselves. And I'm a technophobe actually, but I'm learning to at least be conversant in some technologies. So speak the language of AI and data science, and most importantly, it should be people first. So the 5 Ps are pragmatic, proportionate, persistent, perceptive, and people first. I would like you to choose a P and give your reactions to it or your insights. So among those Ps. Yes.
I can start. So I'm not sure if there's people.
People first is
People
a very,
first.
very
So
relative.
people first. What my mentors said to me before, it has to start with a human and end with a human. So what does it mean? At Globe, we always start with an end in mind. What problem are we solving? What questions are we trying to answer or to respond to? And with that quote that was told to me by my mentor, it stuck to me that it's the people first principle. Meaning to say, in everything that we do, we design with people in mind. What is needed by the people? Because if we start with people, we can never go wrong. There will always be new technology, shiny toys out there. But it's not the technology or the tool that will look for the problem. It's the other way around. It needs to start with the people so that we get to bring solutions that are human-centered. Actually, when I saw the theme, I was able to come up with a framework. Every time that we design, regardless whether it's in construction, programs, design, or whatnot, we should design it with a heart. I will try to relate the heart principle with what was mentioned by Patel. Actually, I was following him on LinkedIn. So heart stands for, it has to be human-centered, so that if it's human-centered, for sure, the human is happy. It has to be efficient, hence it's sustainable. Adaptable, meaning we can contextualize, there's local settings or whatnot. It has to be relevant, meaning it's inclusive. And lastly, it has to be technologically feasible. All design should have a heart. It should focus on human, it should be efficient, adaptable, relevant, and technologically feasible. And if we do that, we are creating solutions that are not just fair and inclusive, but also sustainable.
So thank you. So he chose people first. What P would you choose to reflect on?
Maybe I can choose pragmatic. So part of the work that we do at the Center for AI Research is to do R&D. That's research and development. And what it really is it has to be something that's novel, that's creative. Unfortunately, it's also uncertain, right? And that's one of the challenges actually when you do R&D, trying to convince people to invest in you to create something of value, right? So when we do research, we try to be pragmatically oriented. Like, what is the highest impact that I can create for the resources that I have? Because resource constraint is like a real thing that we have to deal with. But yeah, so that is like one of the main challenges. Actually, when I tell people that I work in AI, it kind of sounds glamorous, but in reality, it's a lot of non-technical work that you really have to get through, unfortunately. But that's the reality, right? And if you really want to do high impact things, there's a lot of unglamorous things that you have to work through, like finding funding, like trying to convince people with power to give you money so that you can do the things that you want to do, right? A lot of these things, for example, when events like this are organized by the DTI, somebody somewhere had to do the convincing and the pitching at some point, right? And that's a lot of work you have to do. And I think that's an aspect of the job that we tend to forget, especially when we think about like design, even in AI, even the creative industries, pitching yourself, operationalizing a lot of the work is actually where most of the challenges comes in. Be pragmatic.
We call that the grunt work. Thank you. Would like to pick a P?
Persistence was one of them, right?
Yes, persistence.
So when I hear that, and what I hope that the intent is behind that selected word, persistence, is up until now, as it relates to interacting with this technology, has been very turn-based. I say this, I wait a little bit more. Oh yeah, and then something happens. And persistence means it's no longer that. It's there, it's on, it's persistently listening, and that's another nice human trait that I think AI has, is deep listening and comprehension, and that through that persistence, it then will retain what that action or communication or conversation was and immediately build upon it. So the persistence aspect is really important because that is what makes it fundamentally usable. And honestly, I would say prior to GPT 4.0, like that didn't exist, and now we're at sort of the movie Her level, which is kind of cool.
Thank you. Dara?
Right, I'll choose proportional.
Okay.
And if I can introduce a concept, there's this. I've been with the AI in education community since the mid 2000s, but there's been AI in education for at least 60 years, and recently there's a movement, there's a group that advocates for AI and unplugged, which is to say, like in under-resourced contexts, how does AI now become relevant? How can it be usable? How can teachers and learners benefit from it? And so this goes to a proportional response, that if you have instances where you have very limited connectivity, for example, then let's not aspire for all students to be connected. Let's at least give connectivity to the teachers. Let's put them first. And then let us create or design applications that will empower the teacher so that the teacher can maybe check papers faster or produce interesting learning materials faster. And in that way, they can lighten the workload. The technologies can lighten the workload, and you're still using AI, you're still using technology, maybe you're using a mobile phone, maybe you're using a tablet, but you still have all of these ingredients, but it's a proportional response. It's not 1:1 or not the blue skies scenario. The other thing that I want to say is still on the subject of proportionality, our first move doesn't always have to be AI, because there are many other educational technologies. As I said, AI in education has been around for 60 years, but there are many other technologies that have been around for as long, if not longer, that also have been shown to be quite effective. So, for example, drill and practice. I know it sounds boring, but educational games. These don't have to be AI driven, but they can be engaging. They can capture the interest, get students excited. Why not? Why not use them? And if you want to go even lower tech, there's a lot to be said for textbooks, maps, flashcards. These types of technologies have been around forever, but if used well, if used properly, if within the hands of a capable teacher, they can be. It's effective, if not more effective than all of our fancy toys.
Yes, it was the point you made earlier. It unburdens us of the stuff that's tedious, so we may focus on what brings us joy as a teacher, right? And what is that? It's talking to them. It's getting to know them. It's these one-on-one conversations and connections that we make with our students. So thank you for indulging me with the 5 Ps. Now, I'm going to just provoke, right? Nicholas Thompson, the CEO of the Atlantic, recently hosted the Atlantic Festival. And he had this question. If you could be dictator for a day, what would you do?
Are you trying to fight autocracy right now?
No,
Especially back in America.
Is that an option?
No, that's another way of framing what is your deepest desire for the current context that we're in. I'll give you a minute to think about it because I'm watching the clock.
Okay,
That's a pretty deep question.
Right.
No, I mean anything. I mean, because you have deep insight and understanding of where the world could possibly head, or what you pointed out the dangers and the wonderful things that could happen. And you're experts in your own field, so perhaps there's a view that you'd like us to share with us and say, if I were dictator for a day, this is what I'll do. Given what I know and what I've seen.
This is more of like, I would say I would spend some time trying to figure out, we talked about how this sea change that's happening right now, whether we like it or not, is going to impact and cause us to relearn, retool, rescope how we engage with the world as adults. Thinking about that, I would say 5 years ago, it was all about let's get more kids to learn about STEM. Let's get more kids to think about like how to program and learn about algorithms. It's not that anymore. AI has just displaced all of that. What it is about the hard sciences. It's about math. Like the people who are going to excel and have amazing careers in the future as it relates to this technology. Using this time in a day to think about this is how do we get more kids engaged with like hard math, physics? Like these are the types of sciences that the current and future iterations of where AI is being built upon. If you think about who is employed right now at OpenAI or at DeepMind or in any other research facilities that are like building this future technology, they were the former deep mathematicians that, to a degree, software companies shoved into a corner. And now they brought them all back out and said, you are the future of our corporation. And how do we get our kids deeply engaged with finding joy in math? Because math affects not only what we're talking about here, but how do we build and design for beautiful experiences in our natural physical world?
You just echoed a conversation I had over lunch that we do have to find a way to bring joy back to learning. Yeah? But it's a question to the rest.
Right. So Anna will be dictator on day 1, and I will be dictator on day 0.
Okay.
I'll be a gentle
No, because what I was thinking was, okay, My move for Dictator for a Day was to make sure that our students are fed, because in the Philippines that's a huge problem of hunger. So we will feed them first on day 0, and then we will pass them.
And then they'll be focused,
There.
ready to learn. Yes.
Thank you, thank you. It just makes me think about we really have to get the basic needs addressed, right? We can aspire, we can dream, but I think we should focus the dreams more on getting the basic needs addressed. So thank you for that response. Who would like to go next?
I guess if I were a dictator for a day, I'd fund all my projects. That's the cheap answer. Day 3, fund all our projects. But I think as somebody that works like within the government system, I can empathize with a lot of the bureaucracy that sort of slows down a lot of the good intentions that good people have. I think we often forget that there are actually a lot of good people that work in government that really want to change the Philippines for the better, and they're really held back by all of the red tape that they have to go through just to get funding approved, budget approved. Helping lighten that load is something that I would focus on, so that a lot of more good can come out of our public service. I think that's something that I would focus on.
So from day 1 to day 2 of
You're
getting
day
the
4,
basics,
sir.
Day 4.
getting the fund, on day 4, I would request for us to exploit AI. I think I saw a quote from Stephen Hawking. He said that with this era of AI, we don't know whether it's the best or the worst for humanity. And we don't know. I mean, no one can tell that. I mean, we're all on the same page. But let's exploit. I mean, let's try to automate the repetitive tasks. Let's try to enhance or amplify how we do things so that we get to focus on what really matters. Relationship, family, happiness. Right? Let's
Joy.
not be scared.
Great. So we have, I hope you're looking forward to the rise of 4 dictators for a day. Yeah? Okay, so I'd like to move on to something that concerns a lot of people in the audience, and it's about creativity and originality when it comes to AI. I'm sure I see a lot of heads nodding. And just a short anecdote. I told you I'm a technophobe, but what I did was I asked my friend who wasn't a technophobe to say, and asked him to, can you scrape all of my husband's paintings on the internet and try to create a version of his painting? So he generated several, and I have to tell you, looks exactly like my husband's paintings, right? But of course, it takes a keen eye to look for those little angsty brush marks and all that. But
There'll be some weird attitudes.
yes,
there
there's
for
just
sure.
that. Yeah, so I think I'm just continuing the conversation on experimentation, right? We have to experiment. We have to try things out. We can't be scared of things we haven't actually touched, you know? It's not a ghost, it's just a tool. And as much as I had my apprehensions, I wanted a bridge from those traditional artists who would say, or purist artists who would say, no, AI will never touch my work, and those who are generating beautiful works of art aided by AI, and there seems to be a divide. And I say, there shouldn't be a divide because it's a tool. It's a new tool that can help you. Do you agree?
So I thought about using Gen AI in my presentation today. I still can't use it. Like, I know that this is fake. Like no matter how good someone tries to make it, there's just like almost like this innate sense that like this is not that it's fake, it's not good enough. Like whether it's a photograph or a video or an illustration, I just know that humans, other creatives can do better, and it's not there yet. It's great to generate some basic stuff. Like I tried doing like, give me some visual imagery for the theme that I'm talking about that may be like Dune based, and I was like, oh God, this is ugly. I'm like, no, family photo. Yeah, I'm sure it's gonna get better, but but you have to play and you have to learn how to use it, and that's the thing. It's not a matter of will it. Yes, it will. It's a matter of when. So yeah, I hope that answers
It does.
and provides my point of view.
Thank you. But we'd like to hear the rest.
Guess from my perspective, I have a lot of friends in the creatives industry, and half of them don't like AI primarily because they feel that existential threat to their profession, which is understandable. But there's also it's a double-bladed sword. On the other side, me personally, I'm not that good when it comes to like art and stuff. So I tried that out, using it for its art capabilities, and it can help me do things that I thought I would not have been able to do. Right. So in that aspect, it augments my workflow. Right. But I think that in order to have the conversation about it, you have to be aware of it, aware of its limitations, what goes into training these models. A lot of people bring up that, I don't consent to my art being used in training these models. And we should have that conversation, but it can't be from just the side of the scientists, the engineers developing the models. Creative people who work in that design space, art space, they also need to be able to talk about it with eloquence. And that requires you to be exposed to the tool, to know what it's capable of, to see where it's going, so you can speak on it more informed, right? So that you can contribute to the conversation of policy, right? If we want to be equitable, everybody needs to know what it's all about.
Yes. Yeah, I totally agree.
Speak about this maybe again from a slightly different perspective, because I'm coming from computer science, so we don't exercise the same types of creativity as maybe some of the people in this room. We don't really do illustration. Many of us, not all of us, some of us are capable of artistic works, but most of us can do stick figures, and that's about it. And I think in our case, though, I think a lot of a little bit of context. I advise, and my lab is home to the game development majors. So we challenge them to create games about, and it's always games about something, right? Games are always about something. What is the something? And we try to encourage them to do something Filipino, something with a Philippine theme. So for a long time it was about, let's say, Filipino heritage, Filipino myths, teaching students love of country using games. These are the kinds of themes that we would try to cultivate. But with the advent of ChatGPT and related tools, it's so easy to make a game now. I have high school interns who come to the lab, and within 5 days they have a game running, from assets to mechanics. It's completely running. So now the challenge to our students in college is, how can you do better than this? We know you can, if all you have to do is generate the code, we know you can generate the code. There are tools to help you do that. And in 5 days, we know you'll have something running. But where's the plus factor? What will make you better? Where is the creative input? And again, will it come from tying the theme of the game to something that is something rooted in our culture, something that will, and this is, we think of this as a way to, it's our way of contributing to the digital preservation of our culture. Because if you play a lot of games, you'll see that a lot of the mythology is Norse or it's Greek, but where is Amihan in all this? It's not. She's not. So this is, I would say, for at least from our perspective, the game dev people's perspective, it's we know that AI can definitely supercharge the creation process, but the challenge is still to make a game that people will want to play and that's fun and meaningful, has a story, has a hook. Those are maybe less easy to generate.
Thank you. By the way, I'm of the school of thought that creativity isn't just about creating visual visual art or design, I think creativity lives in every single person, but we probably are environments that don't nurture that. So being a scientist is creative work. As Dr. Ming would say, it's exploring the unknown. You being able to create something useful. So that's creative work. So I'd like to broaden your view. I hope you'd broaden your view on what creativity means. A nurse can be creative. An airline pilot can be creative. So when we talk about maximizing your creative potential, and perhaps there are tools that can help you maximize your creative potential, don't discount yourself. And this is a segue to having you answer that question, because I've sort of like broadened the scope of creativity.
Probably I will respond to the question from a data, tech, and AI space. I mean, when we talk about design, I mean, we can definitely use data and AI to go beyond aesthetics or the surface layer of the design. I mean, leverage data and AI to fully understand what are the drivers, motivators of the people, of our customers. What are their challenges? May it be socially, ethics, environmental. And I think with us doing that, we will be more targeted and deliberate in terms of how we do our design. As mentioned earlier, we need to design with the heart, human-centered, efficient, adaptable, relevant, and technologically feasible. So probably I will end it there. Design with the heart, powered by data and AI. So it's more efficient.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. I was wondering if you saw the headlines today. Was this a way of maybe winding down this conversation? But this week's headlines: LinkedIn is training AI models on your data. Have you opted out yet? Have you? May I see the hands of those who have actually opted out of LinkedIn's training on their data? No one.
I think more importantly, like, have we opted out of the little micropayment subscriptions that we forgot to cancel that are draining our bank accounts?
Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, agree. And I think the point is not vigilance, it's just being aware. You know, it's being aware of what's being extracted from us. We're already, they say we're the last resource because we are being extracted from the earth. They've extracted everything they could from the earth. Now it's people they're extracting from. So I think you should be aware. We're not scaring you. We're just saying, be aware. This is your information. This is your life, and you have agency. You have the option to opt out, right? Even if it's an automatic opt-in, you still have an option, but it'll take a few clicks. But you have the option to opt out. And here's another thing. COMELEC Resolution 11064, Guidelines on the Use of Social Media, AI, Internet Tech for Digital Elections. So current, September 17, I think. Yeah? So do you know these things are happening? And again, going back to being aware. So I'd like to I'll be opening the floor to questions in a bit, but I'd like to sort of wrap up with the question about being a dictator for a day, because the two responses that Nicholas Thompson received was, first of all, transparency to make sure there's no algorithmic collusion, and the other framework was questioning. I don't know if you know this, but you have to read up on it. Section 230. Which is the Technology Act, and it's just really about what goes out there is not the responsibility or accountability of the platform providers. It's still about people. But in the age of AI, as you said, the game will be totally different. It'll be totally different, and therefore maybe, as far as regulation and policies are concerned, we have to rethink it, and maybe we should flip it. I'd just like to leave these thoughts with you as we wrap up. And I really go back to the word agency. Sometimes you'd feel like, oh, it's so big. It's so big and I'm so small. Yeah, it's so big. The problem's so big. I'm so small. What can I do? And 800,000 people, or perhaps the number of people in the Philippines. What can you do? You can do so much. But the first step really is to be aware. And at this point, I'd like to thank you for listening to this banter amongst experts. I count myself out of that. So among the experts.
Nerds. We're all nerds.
All right. So thank you very much for your time. I think we have 10 minutes left to take some questions from the audience. Let's do the same thing they did. Let's line up and ask the question. The previous session. And I really like the style of the previous moderator. Let's hear all your questions, and then we can cluster. Yes, sir. Do you have a mic?
Hello, it's me again, Dominic. In regards to AI, there is this video game that I came across with it, which is a 2001 game called Metal Gear Solid 2: Sons of Liberty, centralized around an AI trying to generate enough information how they could be able to make themselves more improved by simulating a previous mission of an agent that they encountered named Solid Snake. So with this previous mission, they are trying to make themselves more informed on how they could control society by trying to filter out information, trying to control human behavior, filtering out information, creating context rather than controlling content. So on my part are there some parts that you agree on that AI must be able to help filter out the uncontrolled amount of information that is happening all around us? And where do we draw the line that AI shouldn't be in control with what's going on in our society?
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I love the fact that there are a multitude of sectors represented here in the panel. And even though my question is in specific to education, Anna, you mentioned earlier when you talk about mitigation plans for harmful instances or risks, so often brought up solution or strategy is to bring in ethics or more liberal arts into the hard sciences that you've mentioned. So for the panel, I do want to ask, do you believe that that is an effective strategy?
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm Trisha. I'd love to ask the panel a question. I'm going to read it because I'm nervous. But I'm also a big fan of philosophy, so I'm always the person asking why in conversations. I think for context, I think we all see how people have been impacted by the digital age, whether it's positive or negative, in their own way. With social media as an example, connection has taken a different form. People less being inclined to go outside and being reliant on screens. And also the idea of optimizing everything is already out there. So somehow I'm just a person trying to comprehend how to blend being one with nature and being a human being present, while embracing this technology-driven future we're obviously headed towards. So as a person who actually likes doing the mundane things in life, I'm personally afraid of losing our humanity and even being perceived as just a data set. So to take a step back and look at AI as a whole, why do you think AI is a necessary part of our growth as humanity or as people? And how do we navigate this big change?
Thank you for that question.
Hello, good afternoon. I'm Jinrik from Research Institute for the Futures of Education at Ateneo. We've seen a lot of development with AI, particularly with how it's been used for healthcare, Recently, it has been used to create art and music. So we see how its knowledge and language has continuously developed over very rapidly in the past 2 years. My question though has something to do with one of the most recurring criticisms with AI, which is its indifference. Meaning that despite AI's development, one criticism that people have against AI is that it lacks the capacity to understand, if not construct, genuine emotions. Such as in the field of education, for example, critics emphasize that AI can never replace teachers because AI cannot build the same interpersonal relationship teachers can have with their students. Now my question is, what do you think are current developments in AI that aim to address this gap of AI's lack of capacity to have genuine emotions? And if you feel like if there is a possibility that this gap is addressed, I'm very curious, like what shifts do you see happening in our social dynamics and social structures at large? Thank you.
Great question. Thank you.
Okay. I'm Daniel. So my question is, so in the past years, we saw case studies from various democracies worldwide, how social media, mostly tech platforms from superpower countries, has a profound impact on local politics, elections, and in effect, the quality of life in different countries, including the Philippines. So now with AI even more rapidly embedding itself into our daily lives compared to social media, what unique challenges do we face compared to previous technological revolutions in ensuring that excuse me, in ensuring that this even more powerful technology is controlled to prevent negative societal impacts, such as the potential erosion of democracy? And follow up, how do we then design and enforce international and even more importantly, local policies around AI that considers the dangerous overlooks from previous technological revolutions? Thank you.
Thank you. There's a long line. It's just a line all the way up there.
The
to
line
the
is
top.
huge. Yeah.
Right. I'm already telling the organizers the line is long, huh? So
Can I quickly answer
yes,
the previous
please.
questions?
Can you?
Because like yeah,
Can you
so
then maybe we'll answer the next
snake.
batch.
I'll start with snake. Like the solid thing. So as it relates to context, that's gonna basically come back to the individual to be discernible to understand what is fake, what is not intentional, and really sort of for you to dive into get what that actual meaning is you need to make a decision on or take action on. I think that was the aspect of his question. The next question as it relates to liberal arts. My talk in the World Design Organization Symposium in Tokyo, I didn't say it here when I talk about the T-shaped individual. Like designers need to learn more about the hard sciences. Hard scientists need to learn much more about humanities and liberal arts. It has to be a balance. That's where we will develop that ethicality of really sort of bringing ethics into our daily lives. Help me with the third question.
Can I answer the question about educational systems and emotions? There's an entire field of research that I'm a part of called affective computing. So I actually, machines don't have emotions the way we have emotions, but they can detect emotion and they can respond with something that looks like emotion. And if you've ever faked a laugh, then you know what I mean. Because that's what it is. In the same way that you can fake your emotions, so can machines. And so I actually will push back a little on the idea that machines cannot express emotions. They can, because emotions are a signal. And we can get into a really long, I have a 3-minute course on that if you know, but you know, we can get into that, not right now, but yeah, it's not, the short answer is no.
Can you take the question on can AI be controlled so as not to erode democracy, and what policies are?
Yeah, so I think everybody here will agree that AI is a tool. There is still somebody right now. There is still somebody controlling that object, that algorithm, that system. And yeah, if you don't want it to do bad things, then unfortunately we live in a world where we live in an adversarial world. Right? It's not everybody is your friend, right? But you do need to be aware. I think to answer the other question, like as a human, how do I live in this in this world with AI, right? There's a saying that I like: awareness precedes control. Like if you want to have control over your destiny, you must be aware of the things around you. You have to be aware of the technologies around you. So make yourself aware about these technologies, and that's really how you will fight for the future that you want.
That's a nice lead into the other question that I heard, which was, how do I like mundaneness in my life. I don't want AI to basically take over my life. I want to keep my head up in the real world and eyes out into the horizon. And I think that leave AI at home, but I don't think that's going to be a luxury in the near future. It's always going to be with us. But think of it as a companion. Like the way I use it, I'll put my earbud in, and I'll go out for a walk, and I'll have ChatGPT on, and I'll just have a conversation with it. I'm like, hey, look at that tree or whatever. And that's one way to integrate AI in a non-mundane way that does keep you grounded and aware of what's happening in your world.
I think it's just like, I have 2 points just to add. I mean, there's a question about losing humanity. For us not to lose humanity with AI, we just need to follow the people first principle. Use the heart framework that I mentioned earlier because it's centered on human. And number 2, AI is not a silver bullet. AI is not here to replace any one of us. It's here to enhance, amplify our abilities, and improve our lives. As mentioned by Anna, it can be your private thought partner or your companion. If you don't want to ask something to your boss, ask AI. I mean, we can't judge you.
8, 7.
Yes, 6. I'm so sorry we won't be able to take all your questions.
Find us in the audience
Yes,
later.
but we will be
Come up
around,
and ask us
and so
questions out
please
there.
come up to us, and we can answer your questions. So please wrap up. Yes, I will. The agency. That's the kind of agency I have. The question I asked earlier was, what does it mean to be human in a tech-centric world? Really is underpinned by the quintessential question: why are we human? Yeah, and I found confidence and inspiration from the author of Turtles All the Way Down, Mr. Green, and I'll just read it. We confer personhood to each other through empathy, compassion, and trust. When we acknowledge other people's consciousness and complexity, we live better lives and feel less alone in our grief and our joy. I believe we are human because we believe in each other's humanness, because we can listen and alleviate each other's suffering. And in that sense, being human is something that we are and something we should always aspire to be. Have a great afternoon.
Come ask us questions later. Find us.